And so the light language sort of bypasses the logical and the mental body because most people don't understand what light language means. And so yeah, usually a light language will come through and then it just shifts all the energy. And then that individual actually found that they stopped needing to ask, can I ask a question?
And just by the asking the question, probably it was all connected to so many like limiting beliefs and things that she was doing in her life, didn't even probably unconsciously, didn't even know. So you combine Reiki, reading someone's Akashic records so that you can find the information, and you have an activated light language that you use for healing.
Hi, everyone. I am Julie Edmonds, your host of Channeled, tapping into the wisdom of your soul.
Hi, and welcome to Channel, tapping into the wisdom of your soul. And I am so honored today to welcome Tara Joy. She is a Nova Scotia-based energy healer. She's a soul guide, and she's also a light language activator. Hi, Tara. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on today. And I'm so excited to chat.
Me too. Me too. I'm excited. Let's get in.
Yeah.
So where I like to always start, Tara, is just sort of tell us your journey of, when did you have this awakening? What happened? Did something like spark this interest, or were you suddenly speaking light language, or was it something you were born with?
For me, it was later in life. I've always been interested in the paranormal, in ESP, in psychics, and knowing now what I didn't know then, it all makes sense, right? Like when you're on the other side, it all makes sense. But what really sort of kicked it off for me was in 2019, I was going home for a visit because my family lives in another province. And I kept having these premonitions that I wasn't just going home for a visit, there was a bigger reason. And unfortunately, it kept coming up that I'm going to a funeral. And so I sort of like just said, "Oh, you're just worrying. It's anxiety." My grandfather was 92 at the time, and so, he had lived a full life. Um and so it kept coming to him like I'm going home for a funeral, it's going to be him, and I kept just pushing it off. And then when I finally made it home, my mom picked me up at the airport, went to her home, had a little visit, went to bed, and the next morning at like 7:30 in the morning, her phone rang, and unfortunately, my grandfather had a massive stroke.
Hmm.
And that, like, was crushing to me for so many reasons. First, it's my grandfather, and then second, it's, "Oh, I knew this was going to happen." And here's the validation. And because he was 92, he had a do not resuscitate form signed, if in the event that he was unconscious or not responsive. And the medical staff had said that he was paralyzed on one side due to the stroke, due to the damage that happened after the stroke. And so the whole family at that point kind of had this decision of just waiting for him to naturally pass. Um, and so that kind of kicked off, why did I know this was going to happen? How did that information come through? And also, like, there were other incidents during that visit that I had precognitive knowledge about, including things that other families said to me. Um, and it was just a wild experience that the whole time I was kind of like, am I in a movie? Is this real life?
Or did any of this happen before this, occurred? Or was this like all of a sudden you were aware that your gifts were awakening and you're becoming intuitive and like, oh, wow, I predicted my grandfather was passing. I predicted what other families are saying to me. And it's sort of like, oh my goodness.
I did have in like my younger years precognitive dreams. And in one case, I dreamt like a whole conversation that I had with a friend the next day. And like as I'm having the conversation, I literally said, like, oh my goodness, I dreamed this conversation. I know exactly what you're gonna respond. Um, and I always had this inner knowing of what people were feeling before they actually said it. And so I also have come to realize that I'm a full empath and can sense, you walk into the room, you can sense the situation in the room. Is it safe? Who's upset? Who's lying? Who's, not okay, but saying they're fine.
Oh, sure.
Uh,
You're able to read that. So so this moves into your energy healing and your light language. So did that get activated on that trip home?
the light language did not, but the sort of like the seeker and the belief in something greater, because I had the evidence now and the experience that like, holy crap, this is real. Because I watched Unsolved Mysteries, X-Files, like all of us, right, who are into these energies, um, and followed a few spiritual individuals and listened to Coast AM with the amazing Art Bell at the time. I grew up with listening to Art Bell. Now it's George Norrie. Whenever I hear that theme song, I'm like, yes, the like original Coast to Coast, the dun 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 dun.
I remember it. I love I was like, the first time I was like, what is this? Oh my God. I was so glued to this.
Yeah. And like we're like, I'm on the East Coast and he was like in the middle of the country. So to listen to it live, it would come on at like 1 or 2 a.m. here.
Yeah.
And some nights we would literally, my partner and I would stay up just to listen live because we need to listen to Art Bell, right? So I always had the belief, but I didn't have the experience or the evidence of a personal experience. So having that premonition and validation sort of solidified, oh, this is real. And like holy crap, this is real. Like mediums are real, ESP is real. And then
such an important moment because people go through these things, right? Like, am I making this up? What's happening? And all of a sudden there's just this full body, wait, you know what? I'm giving up on my mind asking so many questions, just accepting that this is truth.
Yeah. And the people who've been through an experience like that, I feel they get it and you don't have to explain it. There's just this full body knowing.
Yeah.
That like your every cell in you, every piece of DNA is like, this is true.
Yeah.
And that sort of going forward became my compass of like what to trust.
Yeah.
And, even things that seemed illogical, my whole body was like, I know it's logical because, all of society and all the evidence points to do A, but you should do B.
Yeah. And then you look for the evidence that proved that you did B was the right move to make. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. And then when you do what you're guided to from your internal sort of like compass, and you get that validation, then it gets so much easier to just trust it and follow it. And I feel that first, like, is this real? Am I going nuts?
Yeah.
Should I talk to someone? Like all of those things.
Someone. Yes. Unless you're just, I think everyone has to go through that little, that sacred journey. So,
Yes.
okay, so you do energy healing, you do light language. Let's start with the energy healing. So I want to just you speak about healing past energetic wounds and, like the energy healing. Speak a little bit to that. Like how did you come about that? Like, what do you do if someone comes to you? Like, how do you handle that situation?
Yeah. So it's I'm a trained Reiki practitioner, and then I'm also studied opening and accessing the Akashic Records, and I have had light language activated in me. And so I kind of like merge all three, where I'm able to sort of access someone's soul records on an energetic level, and whatever they might be going through in the moment can sort of like dial into what energy is bringing that up, what pattern, what limiting self beliefs. And then, is it ancestral, generational? Is it something that your great, great, great grandfather believed, and therefore it's in your DNA and in your energy field? Or is it something that you learned from this lifetime when you tried something and failed,
Right.
and then didn't have confidence to try again? Right.
Cipher through all of that. Wow, interesting. Do you have an example of someone? I mean, obviously no names given, but just an example of someone.
No. Yeah. One of my favorite to share is an individual who, before she spoke or asked a question, she would say, "Can I ask a question?" And um, we were working with her, and it got to a point where we're like, just ask the question. Why do you feel you have to ask the question? And she's like, "I don't know." And so I went into the Akashic Records with her, and I saw her as a nun, and she took the vow of silence. And I also had a vision of her in the woods singing and dancing and like spinning around, just loving the sound of her voice. And she got caught.
Oh,
And so and she was punished for not keeping her vow of silence in that lifetime.
okay, wait.
And so
This is deep. All right. So she brought her vow of silence into this incarnation unknowingly, right? Or
right.
knowingly in spirit form, but coming to this body, she had to undo that. Interesting.
Yeah. And so then we did a healing practice of, first of all, as soon as you're aware of it, it starts to shift the energy. Like as soon as you see that nugget of, oh, that makes so much sense. And people actually feel it in their body when they hear it. Because even though your brain doesn't have the memory, your body and soul does. And so people will say like, "Oh my God, I felt that through my spine," or like, "I felt that in my gut. Oh my gosh, I felt that through my whole body, like full goosebumps." And so that's a good signal that it's already shifting.
Yeah. So they feel it physically. So it shows up in physical form, those emotions, those past traumas.
Yeah. Yeah. And then often a light language transmission will come through to help sort of move any energy that um, kind of is sticky, I guess is a good word to use, because um, we always, as humans, want to cling to that, like, it has to be hard, it can't be easy, I need to struggle, right? Um, and so the light language sort of bypasses the logical and the mental body, because most people don't understand what light language means. There are many who are learning and can decipher it now, which is very exciting.
We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, usually a light language will come through, and then it just shifts all the energy. And then that individual actually found that they stopped needing to ask Can I ask a question?
And just by the asking the question, it was all connected to so many like limiting beliefs and things that she was doing in her life, didn't even probably unconsciously, didn't even know. So you combine Reiki, reading someone's Akashic Records so that you can find the information, and you have an activated light language that you use for healing. So all three of those combined are very powerful.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I remember my grandmother when we were younger, she grew up very, very Catholic, and like this is like she was born in the 1920s in South Louisiana, and it was known for them that you just have to live in order to get to heaven, you had to struggle and
Mhm.
had to have a struggled life, and that would be your ticket to heaven. And so I think that was like passed on, ancestrally
Yeah.
as well. And that was you just reminded me there was something that I had to really undo, in
Yes.
my own path in this lifetime too, thinking you just had to struggle to win. Everything's a struggle.
Yeah, you gotta burn out 5 times, you gotta
Yeah.
fail 3 times. Yeah.
Really live that life. And someone told me one time, someone very, very successful that I worked with said, I don't want people to struggle. And I like fought them tooth and nail. And now I understand, like, wow, okay, that was a message for me that I was not ready to hear. Okay, let's talk about your light language activation, Tara. So
Mhm.
how did that happen? And tell me more.
So I was working with an individual, and they connected with guides and brought through information for people in a similar way that I do now. And they were like, would you ever consider speaking light language? Because I'd heard it on like YouTube videos and Instagram. So I knew what it was, but it hadn't been activated in me at the time. And when I was asked that, I'm like, oh no, that's too far for me, right? And now looking back, I'm like, no, they saw me doing it, and that was them sort of like
Judging.
planting the seed, right? Putting the seed in the soil of like, this is an ability that you have that's going to blossom. Um, and then I met someone locally who also channels light language, and they went through a ceremony with me to sort of activate my light language, and bring it more to the forefront so that it could come through easier, and like all of that mind stuff of like, it's weird. What am I saying? All of that sort of disappeared after working with them.
Did you find it easy to do once they activated, or was it sort of you had to work on it and like a muscle build it?
It was how my guides described it is that the ability was there, but my body had to adjust. So it's almost like if the vocal cords, like a singer, had to be attuned and practiced to get the sounds out, and also remove the brain from thinking while it's being channeled, because I would be trying to like interpret or second guess, and then it would just like the channel would unplug
Right.
because the guides were like, no, you're overthinking.
Now, was it a little uncomfortable? I mean, we were using our diaphragm in a different way at first, it's like, if someone explained it to me, like for me, I had like this cork stuck and I had to like remove and it's almost like energy Heimlich maneuver to like, so it's like an energetic tune-up that you did with yourself in order to receive this frequency of light. And the reason we're talking about light language is because I mean, it's one of the highest frequencies that, we can tap into. And when we speak, that's a remembrance of something that we once knew. And it's a healing modality for your own self, your own journey. And, to someone else, it might sound weird or what is that or whatever, and that's fine. But when people start opening up to, wait, hold on. I heard about this years ago, and now it's like I'm hearing it again. Now I'm being reminded of it, and let's start practicing it. I think this is just such an important time in our evolution right now. And so, if anyone's hearing and like wondering, what is light language, or hey, I'm starting to become familiar with it, just go with it.
Yeah. And there's so many various forms of light language. Um, Even toning, the ah, ah, like that's a form of light language because it's frequencies.
Yeah.
It's not even, I wish it was had a different name or had a different
You know, you're not, I mean, frequency is like the easiest way to describe it. And it's like a hertz, certain hertz,
Yeah.
feeling hurts. And then there's like fear-based hurts, and anytime you're listening to the news, it's like a certain frequency that is actually instilling fear into us. And so it's not by accident, those types of music and sounds and people. So would you be willing to share like a little moment of some light language for our listeners?
I would be delighted. Um, yeah, and each individual receives it in whatever way they're meant to, which is also um, fascinating because the same light language, like one individual might feel in the throat, another might feel in the heart, another might feel in the solar plexus or whatever. So I'm just going to ask them to send like a mini clearing. Tai is toko ostai nama reiki heorastai tina mana I toko o takestai ke kaima ora himana hestai tai ke namahash. We're just gently letting anything ready to slip away to let go. Haimana ora hike orastai nama ora ke tai ke no ora. Kaima oka toko ostai nama ora he. And then we're also just grounding to that earth energy, but also feeling that celestial. And then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Ooh. And so what just happened?
So what I saw was just this beautiful golden light, almost like sparks or raindrops coming down on whoever listens to that transmission. And it's like each spark as it hits your aura, hits your energy field, is just and I almost have an audible sound of like tink, 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 like Tinkerbell, tink, 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 tink. And anything, the worry, the stress, the overthinking just like allows it to wash away.
Now I feel a little relaxed, kind of tingly too. So for sure, but if you allow yourself now, don't do this while you're driving, people.
No, do not.
They could rewind and listen, rewind and listen,
Yeah.
rewind. Because each time the transmission might, do something different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it grounded us into that earth energy that you know, I can't remember, it was Carl Sagan that had the quote like that we're all made of stardust, we're all stars. And it's literally because the atomic and elements that our body is of the stars and of the earth. And so we are it is us.
Yeah. And that's hard for, some people to understand. And so sometimes
Yes.
it's not about trying to understand. Sometimes it's just about accepting, receiving and accepting and
Yeah.
just kind of going with it and knowing like there's just there's got to be a point where you can just trust in the divine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in the spiritual world, that's when we say to just surrender, right? Just let go of, the overthinking, logical, analytical, just experience it, be open.
Yeah, no, totally. Do you journal or do you do like artwork or music or anything creative in that, in those realms?
Yes, I do artwork and I also channel light codes in artwork. And it often comes through as like galactic portals of energy and then like light language over top of it. And I also have done automatic writing. So if especially for myself, when I'm asking questions for someone else, like the information comes through really fast and fluid from guides and the Akashic Records on, what what they need to hear in the moment. But for myself, I have to do a different technique, and like automatic writing is often where those messages come through. And again, that's like you get into that meditative state of removing the self-doubt, removing the analytical mind, and just going into the flow state.
Well, that's so good. That is to me, for me, the easiest was the automatic writing I've done in my whole life. And then I'll open it up like, wait, hold on, I wrote that. And then I have to,
Yeah.
you know what? I personally didn't write that. My highest self, my guides,
Mm,
my
mm.
angels, or something channeled through to give me this beautiful message, And so you mentioned that when you do artwork, my kitty's here with us. When you mentioned you do artwork and you have energetic coding inside your pieces of art. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so it often just comes to me, like I'll get a flash of colors and what to put into the artwork. Um, and I can share some samples so that you can put it in the video if you'd like afterwards.
Oh,
But I love working with watercolors. So getting those really bright, vivid colors. And then usually I'll use an ink pen to write the light language over top of it. So it's like a mixed media, multi-layered.
so hold on. So you not only channel and speak the light language, you're able to write the coding physically. Okay, I thought you meant like
Yeah.
energetically you are infusing your artwork, but you.
Oh no, and like it actually came through first as writing before I spoke. Um, so I sat down one day doing automatic writing, and then all of a sudden, instead of English words, it like switched to like what I thought at the time was just garbly goop
Yeah.
doodles of, shapes.
Star. What do you think? Oh, but let me ask you, Tara. I mean, this is interesting. Okay, but what does the codes do? Like, is that like if someone's looking at this piece of artwork that offers them a healing?
It can be a healing, it can be an energetic activation. In the same way of hearing it, it could unlock and shift something within their body, within their energy
Oh, and I just
aura.
thought of something. And everybody that's afraid that AI is taking over your job, it doesn't know how to code these light languages.
No, and it doesn't have emotion. No. So AI will never do creativity because it doesn't have emotion.
Right.
And the whole basis of creativity is emotion and
Okay, so this is
communicating that.
you're putting coding into your artwork. And so let's say I'm looking at a piece of your artwork, I may get, I guess, divine timing, right? I may get an activation, I may get a healing. And can you see it, or is it more subliminal?
It's different for each individual. Some people, like I had one individual that I met at we were each vendors at a psychic fair locally, and she came over to my table. She looked at my light language art and she was like, this is about this. This is about this. This is about that. Like she was able to interpret the light codes to that degree. And that was the first time another individual like that was in my like within arm's distance did that, and I was just like mind blown.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned that. I think I'm like, isolated here. I think there's no one. And then all of a sudden, when you open your mind up to those things, suddenly you had a community right around you in arm's length and you didn't even know.
Yeah, because I thought, I'd have to go to, Sedona, Arizona,
Yeah.
to the Gaia headquarters, or, California to meet other individuals.
Shasta.
Yeah, Mount Shasta. And I now am aware of at least 35 to 40 individuals here in Nova Scotia, little old Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada, who all can channel light language transmissions. And not all of them speak about it publicly because it's something very personal to them.
Yeah, sure.
And often they'll just do it for, yeah, loved ones, family, friends, other soul family, and never speak about it publicly. But it's important that people listening know those numbers, because we do feel so isolated when these things start happening that, you know, I'm the weirdo, no one's going to believe me.
Or some people thought like maybe I'm going crazy or I'm hearing voices, and especially when you're younger.
Mhm.
Or I think we accept it when we're younger, and then we get a little older and it's like, well, no, I'm gonna be weird. I'm gonna be, yeah, I get it. Okay, so it's normal, people. This is mainstream. This is a new way of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people in religious faith call it speaking in tongues.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same frequency, the same energy. It's just a different label.
Right. Oh, no, I knew that. And so you ever thought you were speaking gibberish as a child, like, you're playing, pretending to speak a different language or whatever. Most likely you were speaking remembering your light language and not really knowing it. So final words to listeners, like if they're just starting out with their, this new venture, or starting to feel, what would you say?
Um, Find your community, and whether that's a community online, podcasts like this are great because it helps normalize what millions of people are experiencing.
Yeah.
And I'm not over exaggerating, because I mean, Lee Harris alone has millions of followers, right? And that's just one other spiritual influencer. Um, and also know that whatever capacity you feel comfortable sharing your inner light, your true essence, to do it, because we need that more than ever right now. Um, and we need to, be reminded of the magic that each one of us possesses in this crazy world that is happening right now.
Well, the world's always been crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We just need to rise above it and feel your own energetic path and the healing, and that just in and of itself heals.
Yeah. And to trust that inner gut feeling when you do feel that like excitement and pull to something, or like a pushback from something else.
Yeah.
Because that's your body, and your body has its own memory
Oh,
telling you and communicating with you, right?
that is great advice, Tara. That is
Yeah.
great. Thank you for your time. For anybody listening, where can the listeners find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at my website, joystarhealer.com. The name Tara in Sanskrit is star.
Oh,
So it's like star joy. And I'm like so cosmically aligned. So that's why I'm Joy Star Healer.
I love that.
And yeah, and from there you can connect with me on social media or send me an email. Yeah, and I'd love to connect. I love chatting with others about things like this. If you're curious about light language, I have some videos out there of me sharing more
Excellent.
transmissions. Yeah.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Tara Joy. And we'll put all your information down at the bottom. So for any of the major podcasts, you'll see that. And anybody watching, if you love this, please share, subscribe, and we will see you again on Channeled, Tapping into the Wisdom of Your Soul. Thank you.